Welcome to the shadows, where every story hides a secret, every mystery has no answer, and the darkness is waiting for you. On a foggy night in October 1970, a pair of sheriff's deputies received a call about a dead body hanging from a railway bridge. The victim was William Matney, a 44-year-old local man. An investigation suggested murder rather than suicide, but soon the case went cold. On the surface, there was little to connect Matney's death to the legend of the Bunny Man. That would come a year later. Again, on another foggy night in October 1971, three men approached a railway bridge. In the dim glow of a street lamp, they saw something hanging from the bridge. To their shock, it was a human body. But that was only the beginning of the horrors. The men looked up to see three more bodies hanging beside it. One was missing a head. Another had a note pinned to their shirt reading, "Don't stop me," signed with the mysterious initials BM. 2 weeks later, the area was dubbed Bunny Man Bridge when police discovered a gruesome clue, a set of rabbit ears stuffed inside one of the victim's pockets. The killings shocked the nation. The brutality, the eerie messages, the location, everything pointed to one thing: the work of a madman. The legend of the Bunny Man took shape. The media spun tales of an escaped mental patient wielding an axe and animal bones. Theories abounded, yet no one knew the truth behind the Bunny Man. And after decades, many still don't. Unlike the myths you might have heard, there was no single killer responsible for these deaths. Instead, the Bunny Man may have been the product of an undiagnosed serial killer with a taste for gruesome theatrics. His motive, beyond the obvious, was a twisted sense of showmanship. The bodies weren't hung from a bridge to scare trick-or-treaters. It was an art form, a brutal, sick art form. The first victim, William Matney, was chosen seemingly at random. Then John Thomas White, a drifter, hitchhiked into town and, according to reports, decapitated his girlfriend, Elizabeth Lorraine Grimes. As for the third victim, Benjamin Elliott, authorities believe he was killed by the same person, but only because he matched the pattern of the others. In reality, the two women were killed by White. Their heads were never found, leading to the infamous image of the Bunny Man with the missing head. No one knows what happened to the head. As for the motive behind the crude signs, experts suggest White may have had undiagnosed schizophrenia, adding a disturbing layer of reality to the legend. Unlike the persistent myth of a killer wearing a bunny suit, there's no solid proof this man ever wore such a thing. The story evolved through mass speculation. Over the years, it became darker, stranger. But the actual facts of the case are eerily captivating enough. One could argue that the legend only cheapens the truth. The bodies found near Bunny Man Bridge were real. The fear and morbid fascination surrounding the bridge are real. People still claim to hear screams and footsteps near the bridge at night. They claim to see shadowy figures hanging around, sometimes even a man in a bunny suit. Is there really a killer haunting the bridge, or is this all make-believe? Some believe the ghost of White himself lingers there, forever tormented by his actions. Perhaps the urban legend feeds off these lingering questions, thriving on the ambiguity between reality and fantasy. The Bunny Man is a chilling reminder that the line between legend and reality is often thin and sometimes terrifyingly blurred. Section 3. Hook Man, a story of love, loss, and legend. Our last legend brings us to the shores of Lake Norman, North Carolina. Here, the story goes like this. On a lonely stretch of road sits a deserted house. It's here that couples dared to meet at night if they weren't too scared. Because according to the stories, the house is haunted by the ghost of a man named James. His spirit lures lovers to the house with promises of affection, only to lead them to his bedroom, where he hacks them to pieces with a hook for a hand. Now, the legend of Hook Man chills couples everywhere, keeping them away from lonely lakefront roads. But like so many urban legends, it hides a kernel of truth. And in the case of Hookman, the love story is just as important as the horror. In the late 1960s, a young couple named James and Cheryl met in a small town near Lake Norman. They fell deeply in love and decided to get married. But shortly after their wedding, Cheryl got pregnant. And while that should have been a happy time, it wasn't. James, it seems, didn't want a baby. He forced Cheryl into an abortion, which left her physically and emotionally scarred. Soon after, the relationship soured. Cheryl wanted a divorce, and despite their love for each other, James couldn't let go. Desperate to win her back, he tracked her down at her family home. It was Christmas Eve, 1970, and knowing her family wouldn't let him see her, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He parked his car down the road from the house and walked towards it carrying a meat cleaver. He was going to ask Cheryl to get back together. If she said no, he planned to kill her and then himself. When Cheryl opened the door, their eyes met. It was clear how much James had changed, how much he had fallen apart without her. But Cheryl had moved on. She refused to get back together with him. Heartbroken, James attacked her, slashing her with the meat cleaver again and again. Cheryl's father came out of his room, trying to stop the attack. James turned and struck him as well. And when Cheryl's brother came to help, James fled, leaving the scene drenched in blood and screams echoing in the night. The story doesn't end there. In the days following the attack, James became a recluse, shunning friends and family, plagued by nightmares and guilt. Years later, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. He died in 1995, but not before spending 25 years alone, tormented by his past. The legend of Hookman isn't a cautionary tale, but a tragic one, showing that sometimes the monsters we fear the most are the ones we create ourselves. So remember, the next time you hear a story that seems too scary to be true, there might be more to it than meets the eye. The line between urban legend and grim reality is sometimes shockingly thin. It's me. Can you think of any other legends that might be more than just stories? Let me know in the comments below. See you next time. On October 19th, 1970, in Colchester, Maryland, something very strange happened. That night, U.S. Air Force Cadet Robert Bennett was parked on the quiet Forestville Road with his fiancée, Catherine. They were alone, enjoying the solitude. That is, until they heard a blood-curdling scream. "Get off the bridge, you're trespassing," the voice boomed. Startled, they looked around, but it was dark and they couldn't see anything. Thinking it was a prank, they started their car and tried to drive off. That is when a man wearing a white suit and what looked like bunny ears appeared in front of their car and hurled a hatchet at them. The couple screamed as the hatchet smashed through the window and landed in the seat beside them. Heart pounding, they floored it, racing away as fast as they could. They never saw the man or the hatchet again, but they weren't safe yet. For the next 3 hours, the couple drove around looking for a well-lit, populated area. They were terrified the man would jump out of the trees and attack them. They eventually made it to a gas station and then to the police, shaken but unharmed. When the police checked the bridge, they found no trace of the attacker or the hatchet. It was a mystery, and the only clue was the stranger's strange appearance. The couple described a man wearing a white suit, a white mask with rabbit ears, and clutching a hatchet. To them, it looked like the man was dressed as a member of the famed Bunny Man Carnival. The police dismissed it as a wild story. There was no record of any carnival being in the area. And besides, why would someone dress like a clown and throw hatchets at passing cars? As the investigation went nowhere, rumors started spreading. People in nearby Clinton, Maryland, whispered about a murderer known as the Bunny Man who lurked on the Colchester overpass, waiting to ambush couples. The Colchester overpass became infamous. Teenagers and thrill seekers came from miles around to drive by the overpass at night. Some even reported seeing a cloaked figure standing on the bridge, watching them pass. But it was just a story, right? Just a crazy tale to scare young lovers and boost local property values? Maybe not. Just 10 days after the first attack, history seemed to repeat itself. On November 1st, 1970, a man named Paul Phillips was working as a security guard at an unfinished house on Colchester Road. As he patrolled the porch, he saw a man on the steps. He wore a gray, black, and white bunny costume and was methodically chopping at a porch post with a long-handled axe. Yelling trespassing, the man continued hacking at the post. By the time police arrived, he was gone. Paul described him as someone about 6 feet tall, weighing 200 pounds, wearing a mask with rabbit ears. Once again, police searched the area but found no trace of the man. And once again, the whispers started. Was this the same man in both attacks? Was there a killer in their midst? To this day, nobody knows what really happened on those nights. The case remains unsolved, which might be why the Bunny Man lives on in local lore. Legends built on real events tend to build upon the truth like layers of an onion. The core is real, but how many stories get added with each retelling? We may never know. Section 2. The Bunny Man. In the autumn of 1970, the Bunny Man stalked the Colchester overpass, or maybe he didn't. The area around Colchester, Maryland had its share of legends, but nothing compared to the tale of the mysterious Bunny Man. He was said to be the ghost of a man in a rabbit suit who chopped up unsuspecting lovers on the Colchester overpass, leaving their bodies in nearby creeks. While the bridge itself still stands, the story has since expanded, becoming a horrifying urban legend that's been keeping college students up at night for decades. Stories often evolve. Remember the original narrative? Like all good horror stories, the Bunny Man began with a chilling murder. Legend has it that on October 19th, 1970, the ghost of the Bunny Man, dressed in a deranged clown costume, emerged from the woods and hacked a young couple to death with an axe. He left their bloody bodies on the tracks of the nearby Colchester overpass, warning others to stay away. Or maybe he didn't. That night, U.S. Air Force cadet Robert Bennett and his fiancée were parked on Forestfield Road near the Colchester overpass. It was a secluded spot, perfect for a romantic rendezvous, but their peaceful evening was shattered when they heard a blood-curdling scream. "Get off the bridge, you're trespassing." Startled, they looked around for the source of the commotion, but it was too dark to see anything. Assuming it was a prank, they tried to drive home, but they hadn't gone far when a man dressed in a white suit and what looked like bunny ears appeared in front of their car and hurled a hatchet at them. They slammed on the accelerator, speeding away as fast as they could. The man stood on the bridge, waving the hatchet until they were out of sight. And while they managed to escape, they weren't safe yet. For the next 3 hours, the couple drove around looking for a well-lit, populated area. They were terrified the man would jump out of the trees and attack them. Eventually, they ended up at a gas station and then at the police station. Shaken but unharmed, they told the police about the man in the bunny suit. However, the police dismissed their story as a wild tale. After all, why would someone dress like a clown and throw hatchets at passing cars? Well, perhaps the same reason that 10 days later, another man was seen on the Colchester overpass dressed as a bunny, wielding an axe. Was this the same man from the first attack? Was he a crazed killer stalking the night? Or was the story of the Bunny Man nothing but a nightmare spun from shadows and whispers? Sadly, we may never know the truth. Section 1, Cropsey, even before slasher flicks like Halloween and Friday the 13th hit the big screen, Americans told stories of psychotic killers who stalked their victims in the night. One of the most famous of these urban legends goes by many names, but you probably know him best as Cropsey. This demonic-looking groundskeeper lurks in the woods surrounding Staten Island, New York. If you wander into his territory after dark, he might just pull you into the underbrush and disappear. Or maybe that's just a rumor. Andre Blackie Cropsey was a troubled young man. Growing up in Tottenville, Staten Island in the 1960s, Blackie was already a neighborhood tough guy. At 14, he was arrested for throwing rocks at a school bus. By the time he turned 18, he had a string of arrests for assault, robbery, and burglary. And in 1968, he was convicted of raping a woman in her apartment. That last conviction earned him a sentence at the Manhattan House of Corrections. But prison wasn't Blackie's style. He tried to escape twice, and when he was caught, was transferred to the psychiatric unit at Greenhaven State Prison for an evaluation. That's where things got messy. On January 15th, 1971, guards found Blackie hanging in his cell, having taken his own life. The news of his death reached Staten Island quickly, and rumors began to spread. Some said Blackie's spirit had come back to haunt the neighborhood. Others claimed his body had been stolen by grave robbers. And that's when the story took a turn for the gruesome. Kids started reporting seeing a monstrous-looking man dragging people into the woods. The man they described matched Cropsey's appearance perfectly, gaunt and lanky with long, greasy hair. But was he really haunting Staten Island? Did Cropsey become a vengeful ghost? Or did someone else don his familiar look to terrorize the streets? 4 months after Cropsey's death, a boy named Timothy was playing near the woods when he spotted a man fitting the kidnapper's description. Panicked, he ran away, bumping into another boy named Michael. Together, they decided to investigate. Armed with a BB gun, Timothy approached the man's car and fired several shots at him. When he turned around, the boys fled. That was the last confirmed sighting of the man. Police never found him, and the legend of Cropsey grew, expanding beyond Staten Island and capturing the imagination of horror fans everywhere. To this day, the question remains, did Blackie Cropsey return from the dead, seeking revenge? Or was the legend nothing but a sinister story spun from grief and fear? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to stay tuned for more videos like these. Thanks for watching. The mystery never ends. It only waits for the next chapter. If you survived this story, subscribe now and step deeper into the unknown. Tell us in the comments what's the scariest mystery you've ever heard. Until then, stay in the shadows. This channel is dedicated to the weird, the wild, and the unexplained. We bring you the creepiest pasta, the freakiest forwards, and the most terrifying true stories. So if you like your mysteries with a side of horror, subscribe now and join our community of shadow lovers. Every day on this channel, we tell you scary stories that will raise your pulse and haunt your dreams. And if that's not enough, we also make sure that you get all the creepypastas that you can handle. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe now and let the nightmares begin.